Not too badly placed for this second but last red.
Joe Davis made the first televised century against John Pulman in 1962, and he was considered a prolific break builder, reputedly making over 600 centuries in his 45-year career, though that figure includes exhibitions and demonstrations.
And there we have a century on television.
The all-time top 10 makes interesting viewing. Everyone in it is still either playing or has had a long career that spans the modern era. 6 of us have been pros for more than 20 years. My 356 centuries have taken me 37 years. But both Ding Junhui and Neil Robertson, who have a few more than me, have achieved theirs in 12 and 15 seasons respectively. Last season, Neil racked up an incredible 103 centuries in a single season. To put that in perspective, it's more than Dennis Taylor, Cliff Thorburn, Terry Griffiths and many other great players managed in their entire careers.
I remember playing Doug Boucher, who was a runner-up in the World Championship, and he had a standing ovation for 273 breaks. You know, that's how it was then. You weren't seeing many centuries. You know, don't get me wrong, the players are better. I mean, I don't care what anybody says about it, the years gone by, they are better.
In the 1970s, the top 10 players made 173 between them. In the 1980s, that had risen to 706. That figure more than doubled in the 90s to 1,678 and increased by about 10% in the next decade. But look what has happened in the past 5 years. Nearly 2,000 centuries so far, and if we project the same rate for the rest of the decade, we'll be looking at a quantum leap to 4,000 centuries.
The obvious counter-argument to the notion that players have simply got better is that they're playing more tournaments and therefore more frames.
But the ratio of centuries made by the top 10 centurions in each decade to the number of tournaments available shows that in the 1970s there were only 2 centuries per event. 3.16 in the 80s, 7.4 in the 90s, 9.8 in the noughties, and so far this decade just over 15. So there's no disputing that the players are scoring more centuries than ever before. The next question is, why?
A lot of it is down to Stephen Hendry, I think. You know, because he came in and he just changed the way players thought about their own games, you know, because he came in and just kept doing breaks all the time.
Players are going into the pack much earlier now. They're getting the reds open as soon as possible. If you look back to the sort of dinosaurs of the game like Davis and Griffiths and all these people that like sort of cherry-picked all the little loose reds, and then maybe when the frame was won they'd split the pack open. But joking aside, the game's played differently the last sort of 10, 15, 20 years. Players just want to open the pack and make big breaks.
One other major difference is the table, especially the cloth. The cloth is much faster, which allows the player to manoeuvre the cue ball around the table with greater ease, and also the pack of reds opens easier. And the pockets, well, they're roughly the same. One thing that hasn't changed is the importance of a player's first century, and it's a landmark event in anyone's snooker career.
My first century in a proper tournament was when I was 10.
I was 10, and I was playing John the Dustman.
You know, for your first one at 12-year-old was pretty awesome.
I'll always remember my first century. I was 24 years of age.
It was a massive milestone. I was nervous at that time making the century.
This is how long ago it was. I put 10p in the payphone and rang my mum up and cried my eyes out, couldn't speak.
And to be honest, I don't think I had another one for about 8 months after that. I thought they would come thick and fast, but it doesn't work like that.
So when I couldn't wait to go home and tell Annette, my wife, you know, they'd done a century break, and I got up and I'm bouncing, you know, I'm running home, and I go, and you never guess what's happening, Dad? And she said, no, what? I said, well, I've done a century. She's gone, a century? I thought you'd won some money or something.
And I made 117, and I remember like thinking, I can't believe that, because that is like the ultimate milestone for any snooker player, but I don't care what you say.
So what next? Ronnie O'Sullivan will almost inevitably become the leading centurion of all time in the very near future. But But who will be the first player to reach the magical 1,000 centuries?
1,000 centuries from someone starting out is going to be tough.
Ronnie could get it, I think I'll get there.
You need to be playing a long time to do that, and I can't see someone making 1,000, but you never know.
Congratulations and well played. That's 300 competitive centuries in tournament play.
I definitely think I can overtake at the top. I'm only 25 and I've made over 300 centuries already, so I'm well on the way.
So the old 100 club of players that have reached a century of centuries is no longer that exclusive. Making 100 break is no mean feat, but for me to get into the 1,000 club, well, that would mean I'd have to play for another century. Wish me luck. Oh, look at that. The safety's still good.
Oh, you never lose it, do you? John, do you remember your first century?